Hey, welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be talking about how to use something called applied suffering to push yourself a little bit past your comfort zone every single day. And if you do this enough, it will make your life easier in the long run. Let's dive in. We only have a few weeks left until the end of the year and we go into 2024. And I was talking with a friend of mine and he's had quite a bit of growth in his life. And we were talking about like how he can take it to the next level. And, you know, he's done courses, he's hired coaches, he has read books, and he's like, man, I just don't know what the next level is for me. And I talked to him about this idea of something that's called applied suffering. And, you know, I know him really well, and I know that his growth has been great, but what he's been doing to grow hasn't been that hard. You know, it's been very knowledge-based. It's been courses, it's been reading books, but there hasn't been any like applied suffering. And applied suffering means, if you go back to a few episodes ago when I was talking about doing something that's so hard that it changes you, the idea is how can we have this feeling of I'm going to have applied suffering? Because usually when we go through and we look back on our lives, look back on your entire life and ask yourself, when did I have the most growth in my life? And a lot of times what it comes from is the hardest times in your life. And really what it comes down to is how can I get myself to push for the sake of nothing else but pushing? And the thing that he, you know, that's funny about him is he doesn't like restriction. He likes freedom. He likes, you know, he's a very free soul. And I told him that the restriction and staying away from the restriction is actually the thing that's keeping him from being free. So see, he's trying to be free, but what he's doing is he's constantly trying to stay away from being restricted. And if you're constantly trying to stay away from something, whether you're addicted to something or you're trying to stay away from something, that thing still has a grasp on you in some sort of way. You know, like I remember Ram Dass listening to him years ago, and he said, whether you're an alcoholic or whether you're someone who is just like, I will never have alcohol, and I look down on every person who drinks alcohol, that alcohol is just the example here, but it could be anything, still holds a place in your mind and still owns you in some sort of way. And so when I was saying with him is he wants freedom, he wants to be free, and he's trying to run away from restriction. And I told him that the thing that's keeping him from being free the most is trying to always get away from restriction. And he thinks that he's free, but when you hate and you avoid something so much, you're not actually free. So the next level of freedom for him is applied suffering, which is to restrict himself and see if he can actually work through it and grow from it. And so basically it is to do something that you don't want to do for your growth and for knowing that there's a better version of you on the other side of that. You know, mentally, there's probably something where if I ask you, what is something that you don't want to do? What is something that is like, fuck that, I'm not going to do it. I want you to figure out what that thing is. And you know that you mentally don't want to do it, but deep down in your gut's like, yeah, man, you should give it a shot. Right? There's an intersection of the gut and the brain. The gut feels like you should do it. The brain doesn't want to do it. Now, why wouldn't the brain want to do it? Well, because the brain is a safety mechanism. Your brain thinks, no. You've got to only do things that are inside of your comfort zone because anything outside of your comfort zone is danger. And we don't want to hurt ourselves. But you know, your gut knows your growth is on the other side of what you don't want to do. The cold showers, the pushing yourself, the going for, you know, a run 10 miles every single day and doing it over and over again for 30 days straight, for 60 days straight, for 100 days straight. It could be working out every single day. It could be cold showers every single day. It could be a new diet. It could be giving up coffee. Maybe you're anxious and maybe you're just going to force yourself to meditate. Maybe you don't understand your emotions too much and you're not sure where everything comes from, or maybe you have a short fuse and maybe you need to force yourself to journal. But what it is you've got to start to think about that is what is the thing that you feel like you need to do, but mentally it scares you? What is it? What's the thing that you feel like you need to do, but you have resistance towards it? And then how different would you be, and how different would your relationship with it be if you did it for 30 days in a row? Like if you know what, I've been really out of shape for a long time. I'm going to work out 30 days in a row. I'm just going to push myself to the extreme for 30 days. How would you be different at the end of those 30 days? How would you be different if you said, you know what, I'm going to do cold showers every single day. I'm going to find whatever it is, find that thing that is absolutely out of your comfort zone and do it every single day through applied suffering. What does the other version of you look like if you did that? Like, let's go back to if you were out of shape and you're trying to get yourself back in shape. What would 30 days of making yourself work out, no days off, look like? What would you look like in 30 days? What would be the difference in your body in 30 days? What would be the difference in your mindset in 30 days? What would the difference in your relationship with your body be in 30 days? How would you handle other challenges? How would that working out every single day influence the way that you act in other places, in your business, in your relationships? It doesn't take long to make significant change in your life. And it's never really too late to change. You're never too late to turn it around. It takes pushing yourself out of your comfort zone into a new you is made, and doing it consistently over and over and over and over and over again. Because all in all, if we're being real, like life is really just about sacrifice. And whether you decide to put sacrifice into your life and sacrifice certain aspects of it, or not, there will be sacrifice. So either you decide that you want to do something that is a sacrifice now, or you'll be sacrificing something later. So let me give you an example of what I mean. If you want to build a brand new business, you must sacrifice something. So it's crazy to me. I've coached so many business owners over years where they're like, I'm going to start this new business, but I don't want anything in my life to change. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Just close the business down. Because otherwise, if you don't change anything, your business is going to fail. So you might as well just let it go, right? So if you start a new business, you're going to have to sacrifice something. You're going to have to sacrifice some time. You're going to have to sacrifice maybe your current job. You might have to sacrifice some sleep. You might have to sacrifice hanging out with the boys on the weekends. You might have to sacrifice the toxic relationship that won't make it. The new business, if you really want to grow a new business, you have to sacrifice right now. Not starting the business though, sacrificing later. Not having the business that you want later in the future, not having the freedom that you want, not having the money that you want, whatever it might be. So either you're sacrificing now or you're sacrificing later. And it could be not starting the business now. The sacrifice later is mental health. You have to wake up and go to a job that you hate every single day. Maybe the sacrifice later is your bank account. It's not where it could be. Maybe it's your relationships because you don't have as much free time because you didn't put time into growing your business, so you can't take those trips you wanted to with your children. Maybe it's sacrificing your potential. And it comes down to, and I've said this over and over again, but I haven't spoken about it in a while, is life is either easy now and hard later, or it's hard now and it's easy later. That's it. Your life is going to be hard at some point in time. Either it's easy now and you sit on the couch and you watch Netflix and you don't work out and you don't build your business, and that's easy now and you scroll on Instagram. But if you do that, it's going to be hard later. Or you say, you know what, I'm going to use applied suffering. I'm going to make it hard now so that my life will be easier later on down the road. Right? So like your business, that's your current sacrifice. You have to sacrifice now. That is you making it hard now. Maybe that's hard now for easy later. What was that easy to look like? Maybe financial success. Maybe it's more freedom. Maybe it's being able to travel. Maybe it's giving your family an amazing life. Maybe it's giving your children a better education. So it's hard now, starting the business, sacrifice, yes, but you get the financial success or the freedom or the travel or creating a better life for your children, giving your family an amazing life. Maybe your children get a better education because you can afford to send them to certain places. So that would be hard now and easy later. But what would what would easy now and hard later look like? You know what? I'm not going to start that business. You don't start. And so the rest of your life, you're stuck with a salary. Maybe you don't have the freedom that you want to travel. Maybe you get a week or two to go travel. You have to go to work every single day. Maybe you won't be able to retire. Maybe you die with regret and wish you would have done more. So there's always a sacrifice. Either you sacrifice now or you sacrifice later. Which one do you choose? You get to choose your sacrifice. And so once again, it's either hard now and easy later, or it's easy now and hard later. So now you're aware of this. You understand this. You can't pretend that you don't know this now. I just let the cat out of the bag. If you want to change your life, you have to make your life a little bit harder in some sort of way. If you want to, get in shape. Let's use that as an example. You want to get in shape. Maybe you just had something really tough happen physically, and you're like, I got to get in shape. I got to get this together. You're going to have to sacrifice. You're going to have to sacrifice Netflix. You're going to have to sacrifice hanging out on the couch. You're probably going to have to sacrifice some naps. You're going to have to sacrifice some time with friends. You might have to sacrifice alcohol. You might have to sacrifice that really tasty but shitty food that you've been eating. You might have to sacrifice putting yourself through some temporary pain. You might have to sacrifice hurting at the gym. You might have to sacrifice being sore days after. So that would be applied suffering. That is hard now, which will then make your life easier later on down the road, because you might be able to live longer. You might be more mobile. You might be able to have more fun with your grandchildren because you can play with them in the yard. You might live an extra 20 years. That might make your life a little bit easier, right? And so it's like, yeah, it's harder now, but it's going to make your life easier later. And, we all know if you don't use it, you lose it. How many times do you see people that were not very mobile in their 20s, their 30s, their 40s, and then you see them in their 70s and they're not mobile at all because they didn't get their bodies moving. They didn't use it, so they lost it, right? So that would be an example of hard now and easy later. But let's say you decide you don't want to get in shape and you want to choose easy now. How would that make your life harder in the future? Well, you might have a shorter life. That sucks. You might live 10 years less. You might be less mobile when you get older. You might not be able to play with your grandchildren. You might not be able to walk your daughter down the aisle. You might be tired and not have as much energy. You might have disease that comes because of it. The beautiful thing about life, though, is that you get to choose your sacrifice. You get to choose your hard. Whether you realize it or not, you've been choosing your hard your entire life. But I will tell you this, time is either your best friend or it's your greatest enemy. But in time, everything works itself out. So you might be 30 years old and be like, well, not a huge deal right now. Fast forward 60 years, it's a big deal. And so you have to think about that. You get to choose your sacrifice, it's either hard now and easy later, or easy now and hard later. You work harder to provide for your family. That's what you decide. Not just, for you, but for your entire family. You go, I'm going to go ahead and put myself through applied suffering. I'm going to make it harder now because I know that I can make it easier later. If you're in sales, and maybe you don't own a business, but you're in sales in a company, you can either just hit your quota so that you don't get fired, or you could say, you know what? I'm going to be the best fucking salesperson in this company. Why? Because I'm going to grow myself. I'm going to learn about myself. I'm going to become better through this job. You know what else I'm going to do? I'm going to make a whole lot of money. I'm going to take that money. I'm going to invest it. And I'm going to be able to retire earlier. There you go. Hard now or hard later? Which one would you prefer? Relationships. They could be hard now and easy later, easy now and hard later. Putting off the work in a relationship. What does that turn into? Tough conversations. Oh my gosh, it might, and it's easier to have a tough conversation now, believe me. Those of you that have been in a relationship for a long time, it's easier to have a tough conversation now than to let things build up and have a tough conversation, way, way tougher conversation in 3 or 4 or 5 years. I want you to think about this. Think about how much better your life could be if you chose the hard route every single time. If you broke through all of your laziness, and when an opportunity arose, you just took the path of more resistance. How much better could your life be in 10 years, 20 years? How much more mobile could you be? How much more money could you have? How much more joy could you have? How much more peace could you have if you chose the hard route now? How much better could your family's life be? The people that you're closest to in this world, your community. When you step up, it's not just your life that improves. That's what I want you to understand is we always think like, oh, well, I'm doing this for myself, or, it won't really matter if I don't do this for myself because it's not really affecting anybody else. No, everything that you do or everything that you don't do affects you and everyone around you. It's not just your life that improves or gets worse. It's your spouse's life. It's your children's life. It's your parents' life. It's your siblings' life, your family's life. When you step up and you push yourself to do something that's hard, it will change your life, but it also change everyone who you touch's life. But when you decide that you're just going to be lazy and you're not going to do the thing that you need to do and you're not going to push yourself, that also affects your family's life. And so really what it comes down to is, what are you going to do? Because you can have your life, you can have your life easy now if you want to, but it's going to be hard later. Or you can use applied suffering, make your life harder now, challenge yourself, grow yourself, make yourself better, rediscover that fire, that motivation that you used to have, that zest for life that you lost 10 years ago. See if you can bring that back into you, and then also start to change yourself and change the people's lives around you. So do something that's hard. That's what I got for you for today's episode. If you love this episode, please share it on your Instagram stories and tag me in it. Also, if you do want to challenge yourself, if you want to grow yourself and you want to change yourself and make 2024 the best year of your life, I'm personally running a 30-day challenge that I'm going to be taking part of and running myself, that is 6 different pillars that have to be hit to expand yourself every single day. If you want to learn more about it, it's called Level Up 30. You can go to levelup30.com. So levelup30.com. You can learn more about it. The first 100 people who sign up actually get $50 off and get entered into a drawing for a free one-on-one call with me. Yes, one person will win a one-on-one call. So if you want to learn more about it, if you're ready to change yourself, if you're done fucking around, really want to change your life, you want to go to levelup30.com. If you're the type of person who doesn't want to, if you just want to take the easy route and you just want to hang out and not challenge yourself, you don't want to be part of this challenge. I promise you that. So once again, with that, I'm going to leave you the same way I leave you every single episode. Make it your mission to make someone else's day better. I appreciate you, and I hope that you have an amazing day. Our minds work in very similar ways to sophisticated computers. Our minds and computers operate basically on a set of programs. If you go into Best Buy today and you buy a computer, you usually buy a computer with very few programs in it. You get the hardware, but then usually you have to decide what software you want to download. Same thing happens with your phone, right? Like if you want to use your phone, you might have a phone, you go into Apple, you buy your phone, but then you've got to download Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp and whatever else you might want to use. If you look at a computer, the computer needs programs to work. If you want to do PowerPoint, that's a program. If you want to play music, you need Spotify. Everything that you use on your computer is some sort of different program. And our brains work exactly the same way. Our brains are extremely complex, probably 1 million times more complex than computers, and far more advanced than any man-made computers that have ever existed. But the way that they operate is very similar principles. So like a computer, our brain requires the programming to function to function really well or effectively in this world. And so, when you buy a computer, it doesn't really perform the stuff that you want to straight out of the box. And so you need to download those things. And when you're born into this world, you don't really function in this world exactly as an adult would. The human brain, especially in early childhood development stages, requires installation of a lot of programs. Like one of the things that was really, really odd to me, and I didn't even know this, and I don't think most people do until they have their first child, is that children will come out and they obviously need to breastfeed to stay alive. And majority of children, like babies, actually need to be taught how to latch so that they can breastfeed. That was something I never thought of. That's like the very first app that we need to install into a human, into a baby, is this is how you latch so that you can breastfeed. And so it starts that way, and then it goes and there's millions and millions and millions of programs that we kind of download into our children and were downloaded into us in childhood. They really change the way that we interact with the world and what happens. And so, for me, I think it's really cool because for years I've been studying early childhood development in humans, and I talk to adults that tell me what their childhood was like, and I start to see how patterns exist and where, I see why you're acting this way because your mom treated you this way when you were a kid. And it's cool for me because when my son got here, he was basically like a computer with no programs built into him. He was just a full-on clean slate. Most of his programs were, that are going to go into him in the very beginning stage of his life are directly from my wife and myself and how we're going to interact with him. But it's also going to be how he sees us doing things and how we interact with the world are going to install new programs. You know, it's interesting that we taught him to blow kisses one time. Like, this is blow a kiss. Boom. Now he just blows kisses to everybody. Right? And so it's like, oh, we installed that program. I remember one time my wife was off to the left and he was staring at me, and I was trying to get him to point. I was trying to get him to look at her. So I'm pointing to the left and I'm pointing with my finger, and he's staring at me because he has no idea what the hell that means. And I'm like, oh my God, even the program of pointing and turning your head to know what pointing is has not been installed yet.
And we will be right back. Hey, if you've ever wanted to be coached personally by me, right now is your chance. I just opened the doors to Mindset 2.0, which is a 12-week system that's designed to help you finally break free from procrastination, to stop overthinking, stop holding yourself back, so that you can create the life that you want. But the doors are going to close in just a few days, and the first few people who join are going to get a massive discount plus access to exclusive bonuses that I've never put out before. And so if you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. All you need to do is go to coachwithrob.com right now. Once again, coachwithrob.com, or you can click the link that's down in the description, and I'll see you on the inside.
And now back to the show. And so kids will not always, they'll do what they're taught, but they'll also become who you are and what they see in you as well, which makes you realize that we became who we are by millions of things that our parents taught us and millions of things that we saw our parents do. You know, and so then he went from breastfeeding to eating solid food to, you know, walking and moving and trying to start talking, all of these things. And he's also going to learn how to treat himself through us. He's going to learn how to speak through us. He's going to learn how to act when he is challenged through us. Every single program that determines his thoughts, his behaviors, ultimately where his life ends up, are probably going to come from myself and my wife. Oh, that's stressful, right? What a big undertaking. But it makes you realize how you became who you are as well. You know, from 0 to 7 years old is where we were the most programmable and where children are the most programmable. It's a point in time where our brains are in what's called theta state. And theta state is basically very similar to the state of hypnosis. Easily programmable. It blows my mind how fast he can pick things up. And so what are your programs? Have you ever thought about that for a second? Like, you got millions of programs that you learned before you, and these things that are the interesting part about these types of programs is they're not even just stored in your memory, they're stored in your implicit memory, which makes you believe that they are absolute truth, like the foundation of the universe. And so we have these things like, you've probably heard from your parents, like money's hard to come by. Children are meant to be seen, not heard. In order to get rich, you have to screw people over. Money doesn't grow on trees. You realize that you're not worthy or not lovable or not good enough in some sort of way. And the hard thing about your programs is that, like I said, they basically run unconsciously. So we don't even need to think about them. And so sometimes they're kind of hard to find because the reason why it's called subconscious, it's running under the conscious mind. Unless we consciously take a step back and intentionally look at our lives and decide to self-assess. The first thing we need to do to really understand this, and I need to teach, is the difference between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. So I've got to dive into the two of these. So the conscious mind is located in your prefrontal cortex, just behind your forehead. It's about 5% of your brain and your thinking throughout the day. It's responsible for creative thinking, for decision-making, for reasoning. It's the driver of your thoughts. Basically, you know, using your desires and your goals in your programs to navigate through life in some sort of way. But it's very, very limited, and it can only focus on one thing at a time. And so that's 5% of your brain, your conscious mind. That's the one that says, I want to build a multi-million-dollar business. And then you have your subconscious mind that's like, yeah, but money, you have to screw people over. You're not good enough. You're not smart enough. And it kind of sabotages you. It's where self-sabotage comes from. It's your conscious mind battling your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind now is approximately 95% of your brain. It stores all your habits, your memories, your acquired behaviors. These are basically your quote unquote programs. You ever do something and you're like, oh my God, that was basically my mom. That was a program right there. That was a program that was just built in. It functions on autopilot. That's how the subconscious works. It takes over routines and tasks when the conscious mind is preoccupied in some sort of way. Autopilot mode, basically what the subconscious does, allows us to perform like really complex actions, like driving a car, without having to consciously think about every single step that's involved in driving the car. You ever like drive home from work and then you get home from work and you're like, I don't even really remember driving home. Yeah, because your subconscious completely took over. Your conscious mind was too busy thinking about work or something else. You ever blow up on someone and you think, oh shit, I shouldn't have said that? Subconscious mind. That's an autopilot moment as well. So when we're not actively focusing on the present moment, like right here, right now, our subconscious mind tends to take over and it runs these pre-installed programs. And you could be, the interesting thing about it, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately, is you could be a completely different person for the rest of your life in this moment if you could bring 100% of your presence to every single moment, because you're bringing 100% of your brain power, your conscious mind, to this moment and not allowing any programs to run. But that's just it's too heavy of a cognitive task to do that. And you think about it, if you were to just sit there and think and be able to take a different action, a different thought, a different behavior to head a different direction, the direction that you want to in your life, then you could be a completely different person. Otherwise, what happens? The autopilot, the programs are going to take over. We think change takes a lot of time. Change doesn't really take any time. It happens immediately, but it requires full conscious, really present attention to do so. And so when you look at these programs, why do we create these programs? Subconscious programs are automatic. It allows our brain basically just to conserve tons of energy. Our brain, even though it's only about 2% of our body weight, it consumes about 20% of our energy throughout the entire day. And so our brain creates habits and programs to conserve lots of energy for us. Conscious thought requires a ton of energy. And so when we build these programs, it's, really more than anything else, it's a way of conserving energy so that we don't have to waste all of our energy just on like really complex thinking in the moment. And so, many of these programs that we have, they're ingrained in us in early childhood, and they tend to be, they can be, some of them are really good. I don't want you to think that they're not. Like some of you guys had really great loving parents and you learned how to love and how to have compassion and how to be nice to people and how to have empathy. Those are all really good things. But some of them are self-sabotaging. Some of them are disempowering. Some of them have limiting beliefs. Some of them have some fears that are very unreasonable. Some of the thoughts are, I'm not good enough or smart enough or lovable, or I don't deserve happiness, or I don't deserve success, or I'm afraid of failure, or I don't deserve love. And so, there are so many different subconscious programmings that keep us stuck in place. And you can consciously want a better life with 5% of your mind. You can consciously want to make more money, more success, more happiness, more love, more joy. But if you have subconscious programmings that are in the way, they're going to stop you completely. You have no chance unless you're consciously trying to be different whenever you're getting across those. If you notice a programming, you're like, I'm going to change now. Here's a programming, I'm going to change now. I'm going to programming, I'm going to change now. If you don't notice them, the subconscious is going to hold you back every single time. You can consciously want to be happy, 5%. 95%, you don't deserve happiness. You're a bad person, whatever it might be that comes from your childhood. Everything's your fault. I've seen so many different flavors of fears or limiting beliefs that hold people back. And so the reason why I'm going through all this, because it's really hard to change and reprogram yourself if you don't understand how it works. Like it's really hard to program a computer or, get a virus out of a computer if you don't understand how the computer works in the first place. And so, what I want to talk about is recognizing and then also changing your subconscious programs. Given that many of our most fundamental programs are established before we're ever even conscious of them, recognizing and altering them can be challenging. Like this is a lifelong pursuit, if I'm being honest with you. It's not something that you're just going to do in the next week, next 4 hours. It's a lifelong pursuit. And the example I love to give of like what I think of when I think of subconscious programming or patterns is the story of like the two younger fish that are swimming through the water. And the older fish is passing them and coming from a different direction. The older fish looks at the two younger fish and he says, wow, the water's really nice today, isn't it? And keeps swimming. And then the two younger fish, a little bit later on, look at each other and they go, what's water? It's like, that's how it is. Like, it's so present and it's been so present. It's stored so deeply in your implicit memory that you don't even know that you're in water. You don't even know that you're in subconscious programmings. So that's why it's really a lifelong pursuit of putting a mirror in front of yourself and starting to learn who you are and trying to change yourself. But if you're going to change, you have to really you really got to do the work to become more aware of your programs that are holding you back and how to actually change them. So let's talk about, now that you understand how the whole thing works, and I hope I've given you a good description so that you can understand it, now let me teach you how to actually, the step-by-step process to reprogram yourself. Okay, the first thing, which I think is the most important thing, I think is probably, I would say probably the most important thing that a human can do is self-observation. Like, watch yourself as if you're just somebody from the outside looking in. Pay attention to patterns. Start looking for patterns that you do. When somebody says this to me, I act this way. Why is it that I get mad every time somebody says something that makes me feel like I'm stupid? Well, why do I feel like I'm stupid? Well, I don't feel like I can do things. Why do I feel like I can't do things? Well, I remember when I was younger and I used to do my math problems. My mom used to come in and do my math problems for me. And that made me feel like I was stupid. So that was the very first time that I felt like I wasn't able to do something. So now, whenever somebody talks down to me, it makes me feel triggered, brings me back to that moment when I was a child. And now, that's why I'm triggered in that moment. Not because of this person, but because of the relationship of my mom doing things for me and overstepping her boundaries when I was trying to paint or trying to do my math problems, whatever it might have been. And it's like, you start to notice, and this isn't something that you get really good at right away, but you start to notice patterns, and then you start to make connections. But it comes down to, more than anything else, self-observation. These patterns will start to reveal unconscious patterns, like unconscious programs, these ways that you're triggered. Like being triggered is one of the most important moments of your life, of changing yourself, because you can notice where you're getting stuck. If you're triggered somewhere, you're stuck at some point in time in your past. You start noticing your automatic thoughts. You start noticing your automatic feelings and movements and all of that. And then so what you do is you start to really go through it, and you have self-observation. The second thing that you do is you start to identify these limiting beliefs, and you start to identify these fears that are a story running in the back of your head. I always say that it's like ice cream, but everybody's got different flavors. What I mean by that is, I've never met somebody whose core feeling in their life is I'm not enough. Never, not once. 15 years of talking about this and working through this, it always comes back to some feeling of I'm not enough, and that's like the ice cream, but it's all these different flavors. I'm not good enough, not smart enough, not pretty enough. I don't deserve love. I don't deserve success. I'll never be rich. Whatever it might be. There's so many different flavors of this. So it's like, that person has ice cream. That person's flavor is chocolate. That person's flavor is strawberry. That person's flavor is rocky road. And so you've got to start to identify your limiting beliefs, because the only thing that's holding you back in your entire life is your belief of yourself. And so what you want to do is, as you start to have this self-observation, is you start to find areas of your life where you feel stuck or you struggle. These are often indicators of limiting beliefs at play. And then what I want you to do is, as you start to become aware of your limiting beliefs, I want you to realize that if you become aware of a limiting belief, it's basically like you've been on one side of the debate your entire life. What I want you to do is debate yourself out loud, on paper, whatever it is you need to do. Where if you find like I'm unlovable is your core wound, the core story that's running in the back of your head, I want you to go to the other side of the debate table, and I want you to debate yourself of why you are lovable. I don't deserve success, might be it. Okay, well, I want you to write down why you deserve success. I don't trust myself. Well, I want you to write down and debate everything that you've done in your life that has shown you how you're trustworthy in some sort of way. What you're doing is in cognitive behavioral therapy, it's called questioning the validity of your thoughts. You're literally sitting down and trying to prove that your thoughts are not valid, so that they can start the limiting beliefs can start to dissolve themselves. Majority of the time, your thoughts are not correct. Oh my God, what? I'm not right all the time? No, you just think they are because you've been thinking them for so long. And for so long, you've been thinking them that you believe they're actual fact. And so that's the second thing, is you need to actually start identifying those limiting beliefs. The third thing is you need to reframe those negative thoughts or those limiting beliefs. In psychology, this is called cognitive restructuring. You want to challenge and reframe your negative thoughts and beliefs and replace them with the empowering ones that you want. Where if you say, I'm not worthy of success, well, I want you to challenge that thought. I want you to reframe that thought, and I want you to start repeating affirmations to yourself that are the exact opposite of that thought. Because that thought, once again, it's just something that you've been thinking for so long that you think that it's true. Well, then if that's the case, well, then I want to play a different song in my head so much that eventually I start to think that it's true. And the way you do that is through step number 4, which is affirmations. Affirmations are just basically you saying something to yourself where you're trying to brainwash yourself. Like you're brainwashed, we're all brainwashed in many different ways. You're brainwashed to believe your fears and your limiting beliefs. You want to brainwash yourself to believing something completely different. And what you really want to do is think about this. Like there's a really important thing that I think is that people really need to understand is that a belief is just a thought that's repeated so many times that you believe it. And so if I have this old limiting belief, it's just a thought that I've had so many times that I've just been repeating it that now I think that it's true. Well, if that's the case, what if I just repeated something different, a different thought? Eventually, if I did it long enough, I'd start believing it. And so that's what affirmations come down to. And then number 5 is I want you to set clear intentions, like define clear, specific goals and intentions of what you're trying to do here. Like visualize achieving the goal of feeling like you're finally worthy, finally successful, and what it would look like to get to the point of success or get to the point of being lovable, or can get to the point of, if you think that you're unlovable, get to the point of getting married and having somebody love you as much as you want to be loved and be able to love them as much as you want. And when you visualize these types of things, you start to align your subconscious mind to your conscious desires. And so you're brainwashing yourself basically by what you say to yourself through your affirmations, and you're brainwashing yourself at the same time by what you're visualizing in your mind at every single moment. That's really what it comes down to. And if you do this enough, and it requires, I'm telling you, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen next couple weeks. It's not going to happen in the next year fully. It's over the course of your life, but you start to dissolve all of your old limiting fears and beliefs as you work through them. And so really what it comes down to is, okay, we're all brainwashed in some sort of way, not good or bad. We've just been brainwashed by everything that we've seen our parents do, how they've spoken to us, what we've seen in the world. Now I am, let's say you're 35 years old. Now I'm 35 years old. I hope I live for another 60 years. I hope you live till you're 95 years old. And if you do, you've got 60 more years. How do I want to brainwash myself from this moment forward to be a different person completely for the next 60 years? And you do that and you start to brainwash yourself. And over time, what you do is you reprogram your subconscious mind completely. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video. YouTube thinks, based off of what you've been watching recently, that you should click this video and watch it next. And if you want to subscribe so you don't miss any more videos, which I think that you should, click this button right here. Anxiety, when I look at it, it's not just like nervousness. It's not you worrying too much. It is a full body, full brain hijacking that makes you question yourself and your safety and your value and sometimes your entire reality. And if you've been looking for a fix for a while, you've probably heard like, take deep breaths or, write it down or go for a walk and listen to calming music. And those things can help. I do think that they're really good, but they don't solve the root of the issue. And for me, I'm never really concerned with the symptom, which is what we're seeing. I'm always trying to find and destroy the root cause of something. Like, for instance, the thing I always think about when I think of a root cause. Years ago, when my wife and I first started dating, she had eczema for years that would pop up on one of her arms. And so she got steroid creams and did all of the stuff that doctors told her to do. And then we realized that eczema usually just comes from your gut. There's toxins that are in your body. They leak out into your body from your gut, and then they come out through your skin. So for years, she tried to heal her eczema by putting on creams and stuff that doctors recommended. When she healed her gut, she never got eczema again. And so that's the way that I look at this, where it's like the eczema, the thing that we see is the anxiety. But I really care about the thing that's before the anxiety. What comes up before all of this? And that's the root cause. That's what I really want to work with you through. And I'm going to show you how to get rid of that root anxiety as well. And I'm going to give you a psychological framing trick. And once you get it, like you completely get it, it could completely change how you experience anxiety for the rest of your life. Okay? The first thing I want you to understand is that anxiety, though, is not the enemy. Anxiety, believe it or not, is a good thing. It's a very good thing. It's trying to protect you. It's trying to sound the alarm sometimes. You know, if you're walking in a dark alley and you get anxiety, that's a good thing. You want that anxiety. But if you're sitting inside of your house thinking about posting something on Instagram for your business, that anxiety is not going to help you. So in today's life, it's usually, for most of us, like 99% of the time, a mistranslation in your body's ancient intelligence. And I know it might sound crazy, but if you hang with me, it'll make sense, because anxiety is not a character flaw. It's not a weakness. It's not a broken part of your brain. It's a survival mechanism that's just gone off track in the moment. And it's your nervous system doing its job, you know, but it happens to be at the wrong time or the wrong situation or maybe even the wrong interpretation. And so what really, is happening when anxiety hits you? So anxiety is your brain trying to predict danger before that danger actually arrives in front of you. And the crazy part is that your brain doesn't need real evidence in front of you to do this. It just needs a memory of something that felt threatening, a thought about what could go wrong, or even just a lack of uncertainty, because uncertainty is seen as danger. It's seen as a threat. And so it's like, I'm getting a little bit of uncertainty. Boom, your brain yanks the fire alarm, even if there's no fire, and you're just opening an email. And even when you're about to walk into a party where you know people that are in that party. So it is your brain and your nervous system screaming, danger, danger, danger. Even if there's nothing dangerous. Most of the time, there's nothing dangerous. So it's not you being irrational. It's your survival wiring in your brain and your nervous system that's misfiring. And you have to understand that your nervous system is ancient. Your nervous system is around 300,000 years old. And the structure and wiring of your nervous system hasn't really changed much in the last 300,000 years, even though the world around us has changed dramatically. Like if you think about the world today versus the world and what our ancestors went through 300,000 years ago, it was designed, your nervous system was designed for saber-toothed tigers, not an email from your boss popping up in your inbox. So in order to create the life that you want, it's you versus all of your outdated wiring. And so the question is, how do we stop reacting like we're trying to avoid death when there's no actual real danger? Well, it's a simple reframe, okay? Is to realize that your anxiety is not an authority over you. It's not. It's kind of like an assistant that's helping you out in some sort of way. And in this shift, when you really understand this, what I'm about to share with you will change everything for you. It's helped so many of my coaching clients that I've worked with. And this is what it is. Start seeing anxiety as a cue and not a command. It's like the check engine light in your car. Just because the check engine light turns on in your car doesn't mean that you need to slam it into the next tree, right? It's you saying, hey, you might want to check this out. Like you might want to check and see what's going on here. Like my car, my check engine light has been on for over a year. And the reason why is because I took it in 3 times and the same thing keeps popping up. It says that the cylinders are misfiring. And then they check the cylinders. They do a whole exam, big, huge thing. They're like, I take it back to the dealership. They're like, no, everything's perfectly fine. And it's out of warranty. And they're like, well, it's not even the actual engine that's the problem. It's the sensor. And the sensor is going to be like a few $1,000s. And I was like, who cares? I'll just drive around with the check engine light on. Doesn't matter to me. So the check engine light is a cue. Anxiety is a cue. It's saying like, hey, you might want to check this out. Just check it out. Maybe there's something to worry about. Maybe there's not. Your brain is like, oh my God, this is unsafe. And that's where most people go, oh shit, I'm in danger, abort mission, don't do this, there's something wrong, fear, 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 I'm gonna die. But what if instead of feeling that way, you went up, the check engine light popped on. And I go, what could be going on here? And get out of the actual old pattern of fear in aborting the mission and get into your awareness. Like stop being swept up in all of your old patterns. Oh, hold on. My nervous system thinks that I'm in danger. This is interesting. Let me just look around for a little while. Let me start to peer into the depths of my mind and see if I'm actually in danger. So what do? Same exact thing that you do when the check engine light is on. You pop the hood and you look around for a little bit and see if you can figure it out. The key here is when you feel anxiety is to get curious. Like get very curious. If you really want to change yourself and change your life, ask yourself more questions, because we're stuck in so many patterns from 2, 3, 5 years old, 7 years old that we're just stuck in them. It's just the way that it is, that we don't even question them because we just think that they're truth. And when you question them, you actually start to dissolve them. You dissolve the anxiety. You sit there and you're like, what's this trying to protect me from right now? Is there any real danger? No. Okay. Look around. What am I afraid of? Is this real? Or is this just me stuck in an old pattern that's trying to run the show? And the switch is from you being reactive to you like being curious. Reaction to inquiry, right? This is how you take your power back. And so if we go deeper, the thing that you should know is that most anxiety is not about what's happening right now. It's about what's happened before in your past. And your brain is trying to make you never feel whatever pain you felt in the past again. And so it's protecting you in some sort of way. You were hurt in the past, and that anxiety is trying to fill you with fear so that you don't make the same mistake twice, or what it thinks will be the same mistake, and therefore you don't feel that pain again. So like if you were in a relationship with someone, you fell in love with them, and they cheated on you. Well, then the next time that you feel some sort of connection with somebody, you start falling in love with the next person, you're going to feel some anxiety around it. And the reason why is because your body is saying, hey, do you remember last time that you started feeling those feelings? Do you remember how bad it hurt? And it wasn't physical hurt. I get it. It was an emotional hurt. Sometimes that could be worse. So your body's going, hey, the last relationship destroyed you. You're starting to get into this relationship. I'm noticing some commonalities. Let me sound the alarm and try to screw all this up so that you don't have to go through that pain again. I'm trying to protect you. That's where the anxiety pops up. Or if you're starting a business and you remember, seeing your uncle work his ass off and he never was around for his children. And then his children resented him for never being around because he worked so hard in his business. And now you want to start your business and you're starting to feel anxiety around that. You might unconsciously be taking your story and putting it with your uncle's story and saying, well, I don't want my kids to hate me. And so you're seeing these things and your brain's making all of these predictions. You don't want to hurt your children. You don't want to have that sort of pain that your children had, pain that your children will have, the same way that your cousins had. You don't want to feel aborted by your entire family and pushed out by your entire family the same way it was with your uncle after the children left the house and never wanted to talk to him again. You've got to start really going through this and starting to think about what's going on. Because if you get really curious, you'll start to notice that anxiety is it's weirdly specific sometimes if you go deep enough. It's not like, oh, I'm anxious. It's like, I'm anxious because this person's not texting me back. All right, well, what does that remind me of? Oh, it reminds me of this person never texted me back. And what I found out was that, he was at another girl's house when he wasn't texting me back, right? So that's the anxiety. It's like weirdly specific. It's not like, oh, I feel unsafe. It's like, well, if I screw up this presentation, everyone will think that I'm stupid in the office, or I'll get fired and I won't be able to pay my bills. Or it's not like I'm nervous. It's like if I say the wrong thing, they're going to think I'm stupid and then they're going to want to leave me. So, you have to realize that those aren't just thoughts. What they are is they're warnings from old past experiences, from, childhood rejection or bullying or social humiliation or, getting only conditional love from your parents or being a child who was raised in unstable environments. So your nervous system stores memory in sensation, not logic. So when it starts to feel the same way as it did before, it goes off and sounds the alarm, which is why you can know logically that you are safe, but still feel like you're under attack in some way. Like you can sit there and be like, oh my God, I know I'm okay. Everything's all right now, but why is my heart beating so fast? Why am I so nervous? It's because your nervous system is preparing for the attack. And so here's what you want to do. This is the reframe that will help you out, right? When anxiety strikes, take a deep breath and then ask questions. When you feel anxiety, ask questions. The questions will start to dissolve the anxiety. So here's like a series of questions in the way I would ask them if I was in a situation of feeling anxiety. So you can jot them down if you like, right? Number one, what is my anxiety trying to protect me from? So I feel anxiety and I'm aware of it. Okay, let me take like 60 breaths. What's my anxiety trying to protect me from? And you start to get curious. And it's like, oh, it's not trying to sabotage me. It's trying to protect me. It's trying to protect me from this thing. Okay, where did I learn that this is dangerous? Was I ignored when I was younger? Was I mocked? Was I bullied? Was I rejected? Was I pressured in some sort of, like, when did I realize the first few times that this was dangerous, this thing that's going on with me right now, this thing that I'm afraid of? Okay, that's the second question. Third question is this threat real? Like right now, is it real or is it remembered? So like, am I in danger right now or am I just like in discomfort? Okay. Question number 4, is this an old pattern? And if so, what truth can I install instead? So it's like, I'm not in danger. I'm at the edge of my comfort zone. So this is a moment for me to get past my comfort zone and start expanding myself. It's an old pattern. So what new truth can I install? Okay. I'm on the edge of my comfort zone. This is safe. There's no danger. This is my expansion. And this is where everything starts to begin to shift. And the reason why is because if you ask enough questions, and this really has blown a lot of my clients' minds over time, is if you ask enough questions, you will dissolve the anxiety. And that's where you can start to regain your power, because anxiety, it thrives in the dark. It thrives in obscurity. And most people don't take their anxiety and actually start to question it and shine light all over the place. And it dissolves in the light when you try to question the validity of it, when you go through. And so like, let's say that you get, I'll give you a real life example. Let's say that you get social anxiety, right? Let's say that you're about to go to a networking event. You need to go to a networking event because you have a new business. You want to meet some new people. You want to get your message out there. And you get hit with this flood of anxiety before you leave, right? Okay, you're breathing faster. You're starting to notice that. Boom, boom, boom. Your heart's starting to race. Your brain is shouting, don't do it. Don't go. You're going to look like an idiot. And so the old you might have canceled. Oh, and then you feel relief. Oh my God, I don't feel that anxiety anymore. And then an hour later, you feel regret. Or the next day, you're like, damn it, I should have gone. I heard there were some good people I could have connected with. So that's the old you. The new you, okay, I'm feeling anxiety. I'm going to pause for a second. I'm not going to let this old pattern run the show anymore. And I'm just going to get really curious. Let me pop the hood and see what this check engine light is. What am I feeling right now? I'm feeling kind of anxious right now. Okay, cool. No worries. What is my anxiety trying to protect me from? Maybe it's other people's opinions. Maybe it's judgment. Maybe it's being seen. Maybe it's being rejected in some sort of way. Maybe it's going to the networking event and sitting alone and looking like an idiot because no one's going to be talking to me. Okay, cool. Well, where did I learn that this is dangerous? Maybe it was in middle school when you tried to make some friends at a new school and couldn't make any friends. Maybe it was a really critical parent. Maybe it was some past social trauma where you were bullied in high school or whatever it might be. Okay, cool. Is this threat real, like right now, or is it remembered? Oh, yeah, I'm thinking of things that happened to me in my past, so clearly it's remembered. So I'm not really in danger right now. Okay, well, what truth can I install instead? Well, discomfort is the edge of my comfort zone, which means that I'm expanding. And I can do brave things in small doses. So, I know I need to get out of my comfort zone to grow my business. So I'm going to go to this networking event to prove to my nervous system that it's safe. Now, will you still feel nervous walking in? Of course you will. Are you still going to be nervous the entire time that you're there? Probably. But you can, as you're walking around, as you're there, you can repeat a mantra to yourself. Like if you felt like walking in might be unsafe, hey, I'm safe. I'm safe. As you're inside of it, I'm safe. I'm safe. I'm safe. Instead of like, oh my God, am I being judged? People think I'm an idiot. I'm safe. Or you can say something like, I'm getting out of my comfort zone, but everything's okay. I'm getting out of my comfort zone, but everything's okay. And you just repeat to yourself, whatever it is that makes you feel better. Hey, I'm going to figure out a way to make this fun. I'm going to figure out a way to make this fun. I'm going to meet some good people tonight. I'm going to meet one really good person tonight. This is going to be fun. I'm going to meet one really good person tonight. And you start actually repeating the mantra that you feel will help you reframe the situation. And the reason why this works is because naming your anxiety puts you back in the driver's seat. You know, when you see anxiety as a cue, as the check engine light, you interrupt the automatic fear loop, and then you give yourself a choice in that moment. You don't suppress it, you don't obey it, you question it, and when you question it, you dissolve it. And if you do this enough times, you'll actually start to rewrite the wiring itself. And so you're no longer that scared kid that's inside of the haunted house. Like, you're a grown-up, you're 35 years old, holding the flashlight going, well, let's see what's around here. And so if you follow this, if you follow anxiety to its root, it will show you the exact places where you're stuck in life. That's the amazing part about it. It will show you where you still need some healing. What's keeping you small? What you believe about your worth or your voice or your value, about how lovable you are. Every anxious thought is a doorway to the next version of you, and you can use anxiety for your own healing when you ask the right questions. When you stop running from it and you start walking with it, it will lead you in places that you never dared to go before. And then from there, you don't have to manage anxiety. You master anxiety, and you can become the person who can feel discomfort in some sort of way and then still move anyways. And then you can, be uncertain and not collapse. You can feel fear and say, you know what? I see you, but I'm going to keep going. And that is your real true path to freedom. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video. Based off of what you've been watching recently, YouTube thinks you should watch this one next. It's made for you. Like, this is the actual YouTube choice for you. And if you want to subscribe, hit that button right there. Welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to teach you how to stop numbing all of the feelings, the emotions, the traumas that have happened to you in your past so that you can heal and create the life that you want. Let's dive in. Before we dive in, I understand the word addiction can be very triggering for some people. And I get it. My father was an alcoholic. My parents got divorced when I was 10 years old, and he passed away when I was 15 from being an alcoholic. So I get it. But when I talk about addiction, I talk about addiction in the way of numbing yourself in some sort of way. Most of us numb in some sort of way. And I've done a podcast in the past about numbing, but I want to go more in depth about speaking how the numbing works with your nervous system and why we do it and how to get past it so that we can create the life that we want. So when you look at the nervous system itself, your nervous system has two states. Neither one of them, before I dive into it, is good or bad. They just are. Both of them are necessary for our survival. That's why they're both inside of us. So when you look at the two different types, one of them is called the sympathetic nervous system. And the sympathetic nervous system is basically when your nervous system is alert. It has a lot of energy. It goes into fight or flight. Your heart rate will increase. Your rate of breathing will increase. Your pupils will actually dilate so you can see the world more clear. It's really, really good when you're running from a lion. The problem is a lot of people don't realize it, but they're stuck in sympathetic nervous system all day long. This was me for a very long time, as I was in a stressed out state for so long, for years, and it becomes exhausting. The other side of the nervous system is what's called your parasympathetic nervous system. This is where you conserve and where you restore. This is you have a decreased heart rate. Your rate of breathing also decreases as well. And so you have sympathetic for when you need to take action, when you need to move, when you need to run, when you need to be in fight or flight, when stress is actually a good thing. And you have parasympathetic, which is rest, relaxation, conserve energy, restore, rebuild your cells, all of that. Now, when you look at this and we talk about it from just like the idea of numbing, why would somebody numb themselves? Why would somebody numb their feelings? Well, there's a lot of different reasons. So maybe it's to escape your painful emotions. Maybe it's your way of trying to cope with stress of what's going on in your relationship or what's going on at work or things that are going on with your children. It could be that you do it to avoid past trauma that is unhealed, that you haven't step back and said, I want to heal this thing. So it's kind of unconsciously taking your energy in the back of your head all day long. Maybe it's an unconscious pattern that you have. Maybe there is unresolved emotional pain if things happen to you when you were younger. Maybe it's a heartbreak. Maybe it's being cheated on. Maybe it's a death of someone that you love that's unresolved. You didn't give yourself enough time to grieve. Maybe it's, running from the fact that you're in a marriage that you've wanted to be out of for the past 7 years. I don't know the exact flavor of yours, but almost everybody has one thing that they're kind of running from. I've been working on myself for almost 20 years now, and I don't feel like I'm anywhere near healed. I've made a whole lot of progress, but there is just still so many things that I just continue to keep working on. And that's what I see with everybody. I don't think we ever get to a point where we're just fully, a perfect healed being. And a lot of times what we do is we have that unresolved trauma, the coping with stress, the painful emotions, unresolved pain from the past. And what we do is we want to calm the nervous system. It's like we are in sympathetic fight or flight for so long, all day long, multiple days in a row. And our unconscious and our body is just like, dude, chill it out. Like, just chill for a little bit. And we want to go from sympathetic to parasympathetic, which is just basically like another way of saying that is like, I've been so stressed out, I just need to calm down, right? That would be the difference of sympathetic to parasympathetic. A lot of people, though, lack the tools to mentally and physically to be able to do that. And so what happens is they unconsciously go to something else that will do it for them much faster. So it could be drugs, it could be alcohol, it could be sex, it could be work. Mine was absolutely work, how I ran from my trauma of everything that happened to me in my past was I became a workaholic and worked 110 hours a week so that I didn't even have time to think about my trauma. For some people, it's screen time. It's watching TV for 5 hours a day. It's Netflix. It's doom scrolling on Instagram and TikTok and just turning your brain off while you're scrolling. And one of the most common ones and often overlooked is food. And food's interesting because we actually need food to survive. Like, we have to have this thing to survive. But so many people are numbing themselves through food. And so it's a really tricky one where it's like, you got to have it, but you also got to make sure you're not numbing yourself. Hey, real quick, I want to introduce you to something called Mindset Mentor Plus. If you love this podcast, you will absolutely love what I'm about to talk about. I designed Mindset Mentor Plus to help you actively integrate every one of these episodes into your life. And here's how it works. With every episode of this podcast that comes out, Mindset Mentor Plus subscribers get more. You're going to get multiple page, detailed, printable worksheets, effectively a mini masterclass that's way more in depth than just this podcast. They also come with journaling questions, challenges, assignments, and so much more, so that you're not just listening to these podcasts passively, but you're actively integrating them into your life. That way you improve much faster. I also do monthly Q&A sessions in there and much, much more. If you want to learn more about it, go to mindsetmentor.com or click the link that's down in the description. There was a study that was done in 1996. It was called Self-Regulation Failure, and it showed how people fail to control behaviors and emotions, and that led to issues like overeating and substance abuse. So because they don't know how to control their behaviors and their thoughts, they started overeating, they started having substance abuse. And the study really highlights that stress, negative emotions, lack of coping skills, and the pursuit of immediate gratification deplete your self-regulation resources. And so long-term consequences of that numbing that they found through this study was physical health problems, mental health issues, and strained relationships with the people who didn't have coping mechanisms. And so really, when you look at it, they said they started building out this system of like, what does it look like to improve your self-regulation? And what they came up with was you need to learn to develop coping strategies. You need to set clear goals for yourself in your healing and stick to them. And then try to work on increased self-awareness so that you can understand how and why you feel the way that you feel. And so like I always say, that the most important thing I think for everybody in this world to have is self-awareness. And so it talks about how to increase your self-awareness and how you need to increase it so that you can understand how you feel the way that you feel, why you feel the way that you feel, and how to actually work through it. And so the study showed basically how to find your addictions, how to better understand yourself, and how to work through these negative emotions so that you can release them versus trying to numb the feeling with immediate gratification. And so this is very, very common for people. But what it dealt with, and what's really important, is what I was talking about just a minute ago, which is one of the most common things that we use for numbing, and one of the most overlooked addictions is food. If you have a problem with food, this might make you really start to understand yourself. So I was speaking with a friend of mine, and I was speaking with another friend of mine who was talking to him. And the other friend of mine is a psychologist. And one of my friends has a problem with weight. He, has been up and down and up and down and up and down his entire life since he was a kid. And so what he does, it's really interesting because he doesn't eat like all day long. He works and 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 works. So he doesn't eat much throughout the day. And then when he's done working, so he works so much to not pay attention to his stuff that he needs to work through. He works, he's so busy all day long. And then when he gets done, he just eats a ton of food that he knows he shouldn't. He eats tons of fats and carbs and greasy stuff and just tons of cheese. Cheese isn't bad, but a lot of cheese, especially processed cheese. And so it's basically like a complete overload. And my friend who was a therapist and I were both talking to him. And what we discovered is the friend who was a therapist, what you're dealing with is very common, is that so many people overeat just so they don't actually feel what they want, but what's going on in the background. Why does he do this? Because he's in work all day long and sympathetic all day long, running from some things that will go unmentioned in this podcast episode. Then he eats a ton of food, and the mind has to basically shut off and digest. The body's like, you know what? We need so much resources to eat all of this shit that he just put in. We have to put so much resources to it. Let's just turn the brain down for a while, because digestion is the number one most energy consuming thing your body does. And so what it does is digestion, because it's so much that he's eating, sends his body into parasympathetic, which is calm and peaceful. Therefore, food becomes his comfort. So if you have the same thing of you can't stop eating, or you overeat, or you have a problem with this, sometimes what it is food becomes comfort, because comfort allows you, the digestion takes so much energy that it takes away the energy from thinking, and the mind doesn't really have much energy to think about the trauma or the pain or the fact that someone's in a relationship they don't want to be in, whatever it might be. He basically, and we spoke about this, the three of us together, he does not have the mental tools to calm himself down, so he unconsciously does it through food. Other people do this too, wine. I love wine. There's nothing wrong with it. But when someone's going, oh man, I need to have a couple glasses just to take the edge off. I've said this in the podcast before. Why is there an edge? What is the edge? If someone needs to smoke a joint because they want to take the edge off, why is there an edge in the first place? Most people would rather drink a glass of wine or two versus try to figure out why there's an edge, or think about their relationship they don't want to be in, or their childhood trauma, or how their, children are doing X, Y, Z. And I get it. At the moment, it's the easiest thing to do. It's easy to just drink a glass of wine and say, screw it. It feels better, right? It's easier to drink a glass of wine than it is to sit down and try to heal your childhood trauma. I get it. Or all the worries that you have about your children moving out of the house, or whatever it is that you worry about all day long, right? And, or what it might be that you're running from. But I want you to understand this, and I say this phrase a lot: the cave that you're afraid to enter holds the treasure that you seek. What you're looking for in your life is in the cave that you're so afraid to enter. So in the cave that you're afraid to enter holds a treasure that you seek. Once again, though, this numbing is just basically an unconscious act to get yourself from sympathetic to parasympathetic, from stressed and anxious and worrying and fearful to calm. But I don't know about you, I would much rather be able to do it without needing something. I would rather try to develop the tools like breathing and meditation and journaling to be in charge of the body and be able to work through anything that pops up, right? When you see drugs, that's easy to see. But most drugs put people into parasympathetic. When you see someone that develops something like being a sex addict, sex is something that makes you so present, and you have so many endorphins and so much oxytocin and so much serotonin, everything going through your body, that you forget about everything else. When you're addicted to working out, or you're a workaholic, all of these things are just a form of running from whatever it is that the subconscious is doing, to what the brain is doing, the mind is doing, to put your body into a stress sympathetic state. It's also the reason why so many people have trouble being bored. Like for me, I was terrible at this. When I lacked the skills to be able to cope with these things, I would go on vacation with my wife. She was my girlfriend at the time. I would go on vacation to disconnect, and I would not be able to disconnect. I had to be on my phone. I had to be working. I had to be, on Instagram, all of those things, because I couldn't be bored. And then, you take a step back and say, what's wrong with being bored? Well, boredom is just the absence of something to do. And some people go crazy when there's nothing to do. Why? Because what comes up when you're bored? Your anger, your frustration, your sadness, your trauma, the things that you've been running from. What comes up is what's always there. It's bubbling under the surface. Now it just has an opportunity where you're not doing something, and it's wanting to come out. So it's just bubbling up to the surface, and you're like, nope, I can't do this. I got to scroll on Instagram. I got to do something else. I can't do nothing. Why? Why do we do this? Why do we run from, and the way I like to think of boredom, replace the word boredom with relaxation. Like giving your mind a moment to relax for 30 minutes, or if you go on vacation, for a few days. But why do we do this? Why do we hate being bored? Is because people lack the tools to calm their nervous system down. And so I did an episode in the past called How to Self-Soothe. I would recommend that you go back to that. But we're never taught this. I realized when I made that podcast episode is that for the 6, 7, 8 months, I was like, man, we're never taught how to self-soothe. Like babies know how to self-soothe. Children know how to self-soothe. We're not taught how to self-soothe as adults. And so we become addicted to stimuli. We become addicted to running. We become addicted to numbing in some sort of way to not feel these things. But what I want you to understand is that there is short-term benefit in that moment. That's why we do it. Everything that we do is towards some sort of benefit. So there's a short-term benefit of not feeling anxious, not feeling stress, calming down, whatever it might be, but short-term benefit, but long-term consequence is what it is. Most people think of now, and they don't think of the compounding effect of their decisions over the next 10 years. And I want you to understand, I've said this many times in the podcast, time is either your best friend or it's your greatest enemy. If you're in your late 30s or more, you have friends on Facebook that you've seen from high school, and you can see who has made good decisions of taking care of themselves over the past 10, 15, 20 years, and who hasn't made good decisions. You can, can't you? Like one of my best friends from high school never really stopped partying. Not a big deal when you're in your 20s, but now that he's in his late 30s, he looks like he's 45. And so if you're still in your 20s, you probably think you're kind of invincible, no big deal. Wait another 15 years, 20 years, and you'll start to see that time always wins. And so it's really important for you out there to understand that if you are numbing in some sort of way, it's really important to write it down and identify where you're numbing. And then ask yourself the question, write it down, pen and paper. Why are you numbing? So if you're the type of person who can't stop scrolling on Instagram, why are you numbing? What is it that you're numbing? If you're the type of person who has to have a couple glasses of wine every single night to quote unquote take the edge off, what are you numbing? What are you running from? What is it? What is the cave that you're afraid to enter? Because that holds the treasure that you seek. Your freedom is on the other side of working through that thing. Sure, I get it. There's many, food, wine, drugs, sex, working, all of those things. Cool, great, amazing. But I promise you this, what you're really looking for is the freedom from whatever it is that's constantly taking up that energy inside of your mind. And you have to find a better way to soothe yourself and bring yourself from a stressed out state to a calm state. You can go back to my episode on self-soothing. You can listen to it if you want, but you've got to replace that numbing with action that will help heal you in some sort of way and drive your life forward versus keeping you in the exact same spot. So that's what I got for you for today's episode. If you love this episode, please share it on your Instagram stories. Tag me in at Rob Dial Jr., ROBDIALJR. Also, if you love this podcast, you will definitely love Mindset Mentor Plus. I designed Mindset Mentor Plus to actively integrate every single one of these episodes into your life. And this is basically how it works. Every episode that comes out of the Mindset Mentor podcast, Mindset Mentor Plus listeners will get a whole lot more. You'll get multiple page detailed worksheets, effectively a tiny masterclass from every single episode that goes much more in depth than just the podcast, that comes with journaling questions, that comes with challenges and assignments, that's all printable, so that you can actually be listening to these podcast episodes, but actively integrating every single one of them instead of just passively listening. We also do live Q&A sessions, a whole lot more bonuses as well. So if you want to learn more about it, just go to mindsetmentor.com. Once again, mindsetmentor.com. And with that, I'm going to leave you the same way I leave you every single episode. Make it your mission to make somebody else's day better. I appreciate you, and I hope that you have an amazing day. Welcome. Today I'm going to be talking about how it is not your job to make other people love you, how it is your job to discover your true self, to be that true self, and then to attract the people who will love you. Let's dive in. Today, we're going to be talking about how your need for acceptance from other people is changing who you actually are, and how it's not really your job to make other people love you. Now, I do understand this. As humans, we all want to be loved. We all want to be accepted. We all want to be part of something. It's built into the human circuitry. It's what helped our species survive. In order for us to grow and become the adults that we are now, we had to have our caretakers, our parents, whoever it might have been that was there, take care of us. And we had to basically do what they needed us to do or wanted us to do in order for us to basically still be able to fit in and be able to be taken care of. At least that's how he feels. I need to do what my parents tell me to do so that therefore they continue to love me. And sometimes our quest for acceptance from other people, when we're trying to be accepted by other people, we can absolutely 100% lose ourselves. Many people do this when they're younger and they're in relationships, and you can see how they start to change themselves simply because of the people that they're hanging out around. And maybe they change themselves because they have found their truest self. But a lot of times what we do is we change ourselves and we become more like the people that we surround ourselves with so that we can fit in, so that we can feel loved, so that we can feel accepted, whether that be our friends, whether that be a romantic relationship. And we can become so focused on trying to be someone that we're not in order to fit in order to please others, that we actually kind of forget who we truly are. I mean, there's been many times that I've spoken with people who are 45, 50 years old. And I'm like, who are you? What do you want? Like, who are you at the core? And they're just like, I don't know anymore. I'm like, well, you need to go on a path of rediscovering who that is. It's really important to remember that it's not our job, though, to be someone that we're not. It's not your job to be someone that you're not to make people love you. I did a really quick 45-second reel that I put up on Instagram about a month ago that is over a couple million views at this point, where I talk about this. And I think it hits home because so many of us lose ourselves in order to fit in, but it's not your job to make people love you. Your job is to find who you are, to find your truest version of yourself, and to be that person as often as you possibly can be. And today I'm going to talk about why it's important to be your true self, but then also how you can actually go about doing that. So real quick, before we dive into that, I always like to take a step back, as you probably know, and actually look at like, why does this exist? Why do people feel the need to change themselves? And I think one of the things, and I just had a podcast episode come out about it, is the fear of rejection. Many people are afraid of being rejected or excluded from social groups or from friends groups. So they might try to change themselves in order to fit in. And this can be really true for people who have experienced rejection or bullying in the past. So one of the things is we want to fit in with other people. We have the fear of rejection. I don't want to be rejected. I want to be accepted. I want to be loved. I want to feel like I'm worthy and I'm accepted into a group of people. Another thing that reason why we tend to change ourselves in a lot of ways is because we all have, no matter who you are, where you are, we all have cultural pressures and we all have societal pressures. When you look at cultural and societal pressures, those can really influence and change who you are. Oh, you're this gender. Oh, you're this race. Oh, you're this sexual preference. You're supposed to, quote unquote, supposed to act this way. And so what do? We change ourselves in order to fit in with those people, in order to fit in with people who look like us, who grew up in the same part of town as us. And so, for example, like I know the one thing that a lot of women experience is some women may feel pressure to conform with traditional beauty standards. When in reality, it might be like, you know what? I don't want to wear any fucking makeup. But they might feel like, oh, I have to wear makeup, or I have to dress this way, or I have to act this way because that's what I've been told. Another thing is a lot of men can feel pressure to conform to expectations of masculinity. And that's, for both of us, whether it's male or female, is really like pushed into our brain from childhood. I remember in sports being younger where, you can't cry. You've got to be a big boy. Big boys don't cry. You can't act a certain way. And so we kind of learn from childhood to conform to expectations of being masculine or being feminine or being male or female or whatever it might be. And so that's the thing that really makes us start to conform and change ourselves. Another reason why people tend to conform and change themselves is lack of self-confidence. Some people may be the type of person who has no self-confidence or very little self-confidence or self-esteem. And they believe that, if I change myself, then it might make me more attractive to other people, whether that's the opposite sex or whether that's a friends group, or maybe changing myself will make me more successful. And they may feel like they need to change their personality or appearance in order to be liked or respected by others. I know for me that when I was younger, I had a really vulnerable conversation with my manager one time. I was running I was 22, 23 years old, and I was 22 years old, and I was running the number one office in a $250 million company. And I thought I was hot shit. And I thought I was awesome, and we were crushing it. We had won awards, and I was running the office and all this stuff. And my mentor called me up one day, and he's like, "Hey, can we go get some lunch?" I was like, "Yeah, sure. Let's go get some lunch." We go to Chipotle, we get our burritos, we sit down, and he immediately just cut to the point. He goes, "Hey, I don't know how to tell you this, but a lot of people don't like you." And I was like, "What? What do you mean a lot of people?" I thought I was hot shit. I thought I was just the coolest, the best thing since sliced bread. And what I realized is that what happened through me is growing up, I had a lot of things and trauma to happen to me when I was a child, and, through having a parent that was an alcoholic, and through going into school and playing sports and bullying and all of these things that happened. And I morphed and changed myself over years that by the time I had gotten to that point, I had, friends group, and we had surfed, and we would make fun of each other and give each other shit. And then I grew up in a sales company, and in the sales company, we'd compete and we'd talk trash to each other and all this stuff. And I realized that over years of all of this, it was like, it morphed and changed me, or I guess I could say I morphed and changed myself. I want to take responsibility for it. And I kind of became an asshole. I kind of became really brash and short to the point. And I would say things to kind of cut people first so that they would know never to come and try to come and, say something sharp to me, because I'd always be sharper. And so I kind of changed my personality so that I felt like I would be quote unquote respected by others. And then over years, I was like, that's not who I am. Like if I think back to who I was as a child, and there's a moment that I can remember specifically when you look at childhood videos, and it's my third or fourth birthday. It's like all the kids are playing and we're outside and all that stuff. And all the kids are playing, and then my mom zooms over to the left, and it's me by myself in the sandbox. And I used to be the kid that would bring rocks home to my mom and pick flowers and give it to her. And I was like, the rock giving, flower picking little boy is not the asshole who's trying to cut people first to make them realize like I should be respected. I'm the tough one here. And so over time, I realized like I'd kind of lost myself. And I was like, well, who am I again? Let me go on a path of rediscovering it. And so that's one thing that really happens is, we lack self-confidence. We become someone that we're not. We get into groups, and over years and years and years, it's not like something that just happens overnight. Over years, we kind of like just lose ourselves. And sometimes we wake up and we're like, who the hell am I? We have to go on this path of rediscovery. Another thing that really changes people, like I said, is past traumas and experiences. Past traumas or negative experiences that we have in our life can influence who we are, and we can change ourselves. And we could say, well, this thing happened to me when I was younger, so I need to protect myself. In order to protect myself, I've got to act this way. And so somebody could be in, for instance, like an abusive relationship, and may believe that they need to change themselves in order to avoid future abuse, or they need to be meaner so that they don't attract somebody that is like that. Maybe they want to be the overpowering one in the relationship, so they're not overpowered. And so we kind of change ourselves. And it's really what it comes down to is, who the hell are you? And I've had to ask myself this many times, like look myself in the mirror and be like, dude, who the hell are you? Because you've strayed off from who you are a while ago. Who are you? Like, who do you want to be? You've made yourself into this person for that person, this person into that group, and you don't know who you are anymore, but all you know is that who you are, you don't really like much. And so who are you and who do you want to be? So let's dive into it. Let's talk about why it's really important to be your true self. Being your true self means being honest with who you are, or rediscovering who you are and finding out, like, what do you believe in? What is the life that you want? What are your values? And not compromising those values and not changing your personality in order to fit in with a certain group of people or to please your spouse or to please your boyfriend or girlfriend or parents, but really like discovering who you truly are, finding who that is, journaling through it. And it's not like a one journaling session. You're just like, oh yeah, this is who I am. It's you rediscover day after day after day, and more pieces come in of, oh, that's right, I want to be this way. I used to be this way. This is who I would prefer to be. And then you screw up and you're like, I don't want to be that way anymore. And I want to get rid of this part of my personality. And figuring out who you are, who your true self is, and then being true to your true self. And it's really important for a few reasons, like why you want to be true to your true self. And it's a couple different reasons. Number one, when you find out who you truly are, and when you start stepping into that confidently, it really does help you start to build self-confidence. When you're true to yourself, you can feel more confident in your own skin. You don't have to pretend to be someone else, pretend to be someone that you're not, because pretending to be someone that you're not, putting on a mask, it's exhausting. It's draining. And instead, what you can do is you can start to focus on developing your own strengths, your own skills, being proud of who you actually are. So it helps you build your confidence. And other things that it really helps, it helps you with your relationships as well. When you're not true to yourself, it's really hard to find somebody who would love your true self. When you're true to yourself, though, and you're acting like your true self, you attract people who share the same values as you, who share the same interests as you. And you're more likely to develop really meaningful relationships, authentic relationships based on, mutual interests, mutual respects, understandings, all of that. If you're always think about this for a second, it's pretty crazy. If you're always trying to be someone else, if you're always trying to be someone that you're not, then you will attract people who vibe with the fake version of you, which means you will attract people who don't truly understand and appreciate the real you. They like the fake you, they don't like the real you. And so it's really important because you're going to start attracting people who are not the type of people you want around, or not they don't like the true version of you. And then when you want to switch, they might be like, well, who the hell is this? I thought you were this person, right? And so it's really important to say, this is who I am, this is what I value, and to step truly into being that person, because then you will attract people who actually like you. If you're being a fake version of yourself, or who you think you should be, you will only attract people who like the fake version of you, and they don't truly understand and appreciate the real version of you. So that's another thing. Another thing it really helps with is help you make better decisions. And so when you know who you are and you know what you want in life, and you are really firm in that, you can then make decisions that align with your values and your goals. You're less likely to make choices based on other people's pressures or expectations, and you're really more likely to make choices that reflect your desires, reflect your needs. And so the natural question that comes from that is, all right, cool, this all sounds great, but like, how in the hell do I find out who I am? How do I find my truest self? Well, it's not like a one-time thing. It's a process that takes time. It takes self-reflection, and you're constantly losing yourself and finding yourself, I think, throughout your entire life. So here's a couple of steps that I think will really help you. Number one, I think it's very important to identify your values. And one of the best ways to say, what are my values, is if you were at your funeral and you were listening to people talk about you, what would they want? What would you want them to say about you? Your values are your principles and your beliefs that guide your behaviors and all of your decisions. And so take some time, think about it. What matters most to you in your life? What principles do you want to live by? What causes do you feel passionate about? How do you want to be talked about after you're dead? Because they won't talk about what you did or how much money you made. They're going to talk about what type of person you were. What do you want them to say? And once you've identified those values, make sure that you're trying to live in alignment with them as much as possible. I promise you, you're going to notice yourself slipping. You're going to mess up. We all mess up over and over and over again. That's what being a human is messing up. You're going to get lost and then find yourself, and then lost and find yourself. So you're going to notice yourself slipping. And when you do, just bring yourself back. So that's the first thing. The second thing is try to understand your personality. Your personality, really more than anything else, is the traits, the behaviors, the characteristics that make you just exactly who you are. So reflect on that. What is your personality? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What do you like about yourself? What do you not like about yourself? What do you want to improve about yourself? And then figure out what your strengths are. Figure out how you can get better at your strengths. If you want to improve some of your weaknesses, you can improve some of them, or just say, yeah, I suck at this and that's fine. I'm okay with sucking at this thing. And so you really start to figure out exactly what your personality is. And you're like, who do I want to be? How do I want to act? What do I want to be interested in? Then what type of person do I want to be until the day I die? And that's what we're really trying to uncover here. The next thing is that kind of goes along with this to help you get a little bit better is to figure out what your interests are. What activities do you love? What activities bring you joy? What activities bring you fulfillment? What hobbies do you enjoy? What did you love doing as a kid, or what did you love doing and you haven't done in 10 years? What sports, what interests do you have? Maybe you've gotten so busy with the kids and with work that you haven't done X, Y, Z in so long. And you're like, damn, I used to love doing that. I'm going to start doing that again. I'm going to find some people that are interested in that. Maybe you're like, you know what? I kind of think I want to get into some pickleball. Play some pickleball. See if you like it. Maybe you're going to make some new friends. Just try to do new things. I think all too often as we get older, what I notice about people is that we're like, I kind of like this thing. I kind of like this. And this is what I do on my day. And this is how I am. And this is who I am. And we stay that person until we die. And it's like, that sucks. Like, let's figure out if there's other versions of us, other interests, other hobbies, other things that we can do. So that's the next thing, is to explore your interests. The next thing after that is just learn to be a little bit more honest with yourself. Be honest. It's okay to be honest. Don't be hard on yourself. Don't be an asshole, but be honest. Like, you need to be honest about who you are, what you want, what you're willing to do to achieve your goals, what you're willing to die for, the flag that you're going to put in the ground and say, this is who I am. And don't be afraid to admit your strengths and your weaknesses. And don't be afraid to acknowledge when you're wrong. Like, when you're being honest and you're being true to yourself, the first step in really trying to start doing that is identifying it and then just saying, yeah, I'm going to be honest with myself. When I slip, I'm going to get myself back on track. That's who I said I want to be. This is, what, Rob, you screwed up. Let's get you back on track. I'm not going to guilt you. I'm not going to shame you, but like that was what you said back there was not the truest version of yourself. You should probably go apologize. And then you should notice when it starts to come up again so that you don't do that another time. So, what can you do to start to, once you've now identified that true version of yourself, what can you do to be true to yourself? Once you've discovered that truest version of yourself, which always going to be used refining and stuff like that, the next step is to really try to figure out a way to live in a way that reflects that true version of yourself. And so there's a few tips. The first thing I want to say is once you've discovered who you are, is start setting boundaries. Start setting boundaries with yourself, but also start setting boundaries with other people. Boundaries are really important for protecting your sense of self more than anything else. And what I see with people with boundaries is that a lot of people don't really they're not really good with boundaries. And so I would say boundaries are kind of like a 3-step process. Number one, you've got to get really clear on what your boundaries are, who you are, what you want to do, what you stand for, what you don't stand for, how you're going to act, how you're going to be treated, how you're going to allow other people to treat you, what you're not going to allow them to do or say to you. So you got to get really clear on what your boundaries are. The second thing you need to do is you need to communicate those verbally to other people about what your boundaries are. Hey, this is what I believe. This is what I see. This is who I'm going to be. This is how I'm going to act. I'd appreciate it if you would just respect these boundaries from now on. Now, will everybody respect them? 100%. No, most people will not. And so then what you have to do is step 3, which is stay firm on your boundaries. Okay, you get clear on them, you communicate them, and then stay firm. And you let people know when they have overstepped your boundaries. Hey, do you remember when I said about XYZ? Well, yeah, I just noticed this, and I would appreciate it if you would respect the boundaries that I have with this. And so that's the first thing, is kind of become clear what your boundaries are. The next thing is speak your truth. Don't be an asshole, but speak your truth. It can be really difficult to speak your truth, especially when it might be not really popular with some people. It might be controversial. But really what you have to do is just start to speak your truth. Start to speak with more of who you truly are. You know, one thing for me, I've said it before, I had 650 podcast episodes of this podcast before I ever really started truly cussing. I wasn't my true self, like fully true. I was like 99% there. And then, you know, do I get negative reviews of people who say that they don't like me cussing? Yeah, but am I going to hold back my true self for, 1% of people? No, I'm going to step into my true self. And if I attract people who love it, I'm going to attract people who love it. Am I going to have people who I'm not their cup of tea? Absolutely. And so you've just got to learn who you truly are and then speak your truth as long as you're not hurting other people. And then really what it comes down to is you're different. You're unique. You've got to learn to embrace your uniqueness. As you discover who you truly are and you start stepping into it, what's really interesting is you start loving that version of yourself. If you don't love yourself as you currently are, it's because you have your true self is noticing that there's a fake version of yourself that you've created. And your true self will never love your fake self. And so embrace your uniqueness and start stepping into it and be true to it and speak your truth. And as you start doing it, you'll start falling in love with yourself more often. You'll be accepting of yourself. You won't be so hard on yourself. And you'll start to embrace yourself a little bit more and more. And then last thing that I would say is start surrounding yourself with people who are really supportive of you, who love that version of you. And find your people. Some people that are around you are your people. Some people that are around you right now might not be your people. But what does your people look like, and how can you start to bring people around you and attract people who love you for who you truly are? So that's it. That's what I got for you for today's episode. It's not your job to make other people love you. It's your job to figure out who you are, to step into that version of yourself, and you will attract people who love you. So that's what I got for you for today's episode. If you love this episode, please share it on your Instagram stories. Tag me at Rob Dial Jr., ROBDIALJR. And with that, I'm going to leave you the same way I leave you every single episode. Make it your mission to make somebody else's day better. I appreciate you, and I hope that you have an amazing day.